When this beautiful woman's husband became paralyzed, her world slowly began to crumble. Now feeling trapped in a life of duty and loneliness, she meets a young stranger who offers to help her husband. But his intentions come with a very different kind of price. And she soon finds that what begins as an act of kindness will eventually turn into a forbidden affair, as her story quickly turns into a play of guilt, deception, and unexpected danger. The film begins in a serene mountain village surrounded by breathtaking scenery. Among its residents is Dolores, who is a strikingly beautiful woman whose charm captivates anyone who sees her. Meanwhile, the village is known for its natural allure, and it often attracts travelers who are eager to experience its peaceful atmosphere. Each morning, Dolores follows a routine of washing clothes by the riverside before returning home for prayer, as her days are quiet, but filled with devotion and responsibility. On one such morning, after completing her chores, Dolores meets two women from her village, and she stops to exchange a few words. While they talk, two strangers walk past them, and they notice that they are tourists who have come by the village. Dolores watches them briefly before heading home to resume her daily prayers. As she prays, a man named Olin suddenly approaches her and initiates a conversation. His intentions are far from pure, as he has been following Dolores for days, very much consumed by desire to be with her. But despite his persistence, Dolores never acknowledges him and makes her disinterest clear to him as she walks away. Later that day, Dolores returns to the riverside to continue washing clothes, and that is when we are introduced to her husband, Rodel, who has recently had an accident that has left him unable to walk for months. Now, she is forced to work alone in order to support them both. As she washes, the two tourists from earlier approach her and introduce themselves as a young couple seeking directions to Cali Hill. Dolores kindly shows them the path, and during this exchange, the man begins flirting with her, which draws visible irritation from his girlfriend, who eventually drags him away. The couple soon depart to continue their adventure. However, when Dolores was returning home from the river, she sees the two having a couple time together by the isolated paths of the mountains. This sight stirred something in Dolores, as she has not been touched by her husband for months due to his injuries. That evening, after Dolores returns home, she tends to her husband with deep care. However, Rodel, who was once strong and active, has not been able to walk after the accident, and although his surgery was successful, the lack of money for physical therapy was preventing his full recovery. He expresses his sorrow to Dolores, but even at this, she reassures him that she will try to save enough for his treatment. And though her words are full of hope, yet beneath them lies the heavy weight of her struggles. And as the memory of what she saw earlier on her way back lingers in her mind, she tries to draw close to her husband, but Rodel is unable to reciprocate her gesture, leaving Dolores disappointed. By the next morning, Dolores returns to her familiar routine, as she goes to wash clothes by the river. That afternoon, a new visitor arrived in the mountain village. He was a young man named Jaron. He approaches Dolores as she works by the riverbank, and asks her for directions to Cali Hill. After showing him the route, Dolores smiled politely, as if in a flirting gesture. That is when Jaron tells her that he is traveling alone, and then gives her a small chocolate bar as thanks for her help. The simple gesture made Dolores smile, and a brief, light-hearted conversation followed. In the meantime, Olin was observing their interaction from a distance with his mind filled with suspicion as he saw the exchange. Though he said nothing, his jealousy began to grow silently. After a short while, Jaron decided to continue his adventure toward the hill, and since Dolores's home was on the same path, she decided to accompany him. As they walked together, Dolores spoke about her village, its people, its traditions, and the calm life by the mountains. But their walk took an unexpected turn when Dolores slipped on a stone and twisted her ankle. Jaron immediately rushed to help, kneeling beside her and gently massaging her foot until the pain subsided. The unexpected closeness between them created a quiet tension, and while caught in the moment, Dolores leaned in and kissed him. She expresses her embarrassment for a moment before smiling softly, now totally lost in a moment. The two eventually gave in to their craving and had an intimate time right on the grass. As the sun began to set, Dolores returned home, but her heart was now conflicted. When she arrived and her husband Rodel asked why she was late, Dolores quickly diverted his attention with comforting words, as she managed to conceal what had happened earlier that day. The next morning, Dolores met a villager who owed her payment for laundry work. After reminding him to bring the money the following day, she is met by Jaron, who had come to visit her. She was surprised to see him and asked how he had found her house. Jaron explained that he had asked the villagers for directions, and as the two talked, he began flirting again, unable to hide his growing affection. But this time, Dolores tried to stop him, as she revealed that she was married and that her husband could not walk. Hearing this, Jaron's tone changed as he tells Dolores that he was a physical therapist from the city and even offered to help her husband recover. On hearing this, Dolores's expression shifted from surprise to hope as she immediately invited him inside and introduced him to Rodel. Jaron greeted him respectfully and examined his condition. After reviewing Rodel's medical reports and hearing about the accident that left him unable to walk, Jaron reassured him that recovery was possible with time and appropriate care. When the examination was complete, Jaron turned to Dolores and asked to speak with her privately. When they both stepped outside, Jaron explained that Rodel's recovery was possible, though it would take time and patience. His words offered Dolores a faint sense of hope, something she hadn't felt in a while. And as Jaron prepares to leave, Dolores offers to see him off. Along the way, he assured her that he would begin Rodel's therapy soon, and he reassured her that since they had no money to pay, they will find a way around it when the time comes. His tone, however, carried something deeper, which was definitely an unspoken desire that Dolores could clearly sense. They continued their walk until they arrived at Jaron's tent. There, the secluded setting soon drew them together again, as they both spent intimate time together. Unknown to them, Olin had followed them and was hiding behind the trees and recording the scene on his phone. And since he is desperate to have Dolores, he considers this as a leverage he can use to get revenge on her. That night, Dolores stayed in Jaron's tent and they talked for hours under the dim light, sharing stories of their lives. Jaron admitted he had no one in his life and even confessed his feelings for her. And after months of loneliness and struggle, it seems like warmth and affection was finally returning for Dolores. They spent the night together, and by morning she returned home. When she arrived, Rodel was waiting for her, with his face heavy with suspicion. But when he asked where she had been, Dolores avoided his gaze, claiming she had stayed at a friend's house. Though Rodel said nothing, it is obvious that doubt had already taken root in his mind as he decided to uncover the truth on his own. Later that day, Jaron arrived to begin Rodel's therapy. But Dolores couldn't contain herself anymore as she pressed herself against Jaron in attempts to lure him, even though her husband was right in front of them and was groaning in pain from the therapy. The moment Rodel closed his eyes in pain, Dolores whispered to Jaron that he should meet her later by the riverside. But when she reached the river, it was Olin who showed up. His eyes burn with obsession as he immediately confronts her, and once again declares his feelings for Dolores. But she angrily rejects him and tells him to leave. Furious that she could still reject him, Olin showed her clips from the video he had recorded, the one showing her at Jaron's tent. Then he threatened to expose it to her husband unless she gives him what he wants. Dolores begged him to delete it, but he refused, and with no other option left, she is forced into submitting to his desires right there. After the ordeal, she felt humiliated as she tried to beg Olin to keep his promise and erase the videos, but he only laughed before walking away, leaving her in further despair. That night, as she lay beside her husband, the weight of guilt and fear crushed her spirit. She couldn't sleep as the memory of Olin's threat and what he had done haunted her endlessly. By morning, Jaron returned to continue Rodel's therapy. The treatment seemed to work miraculously, but behind Dolores's quiet expression, her heart was filled with torment and dread. Rodel's recovery had begun to show remarkable progress, and with Jaron's consistent therapy, he was now able to take small, steady steps. Both Jaron and Dolores were overjoyed by his improvement, and after one of their sessions, Rodel went to rest inside, leaving Jaron and Dolores alone. As they talk, the friendly exchange gradually turns into flirting as the two once again give in to their lust, and they openly become affectionate behind the house, unaware that Rodel was silently watching from the window. That night, Rodel lay awake, with his heart heavy with betrayal. He wanted to confront Dolores, but held himself back when he saw her peacefully asleep beside him. And by morning, Jaron returned for another therapy session. Rodel's progress was now evident as he could now walk properly, but his expression shows no joy, because deep inside, he already knew about the growing relationship between his wife and the therapist. But for the time being, he chose silence, as he watched in quiet agony as Dolores walked with Jaron after every session, with her affection for him becoming more obvious with each passing day. That evening, Dolores met Jaron once again by his tent, and as they talked, Jaron expressed concern about their future, as he wondered what would happen once Rodel fully recovered. Dolores brushed the question aside with a smile, saying Rodel still had a long way to go. They continued drinking and talking late into the night, and at one point, Jaron tells Dolores that he dreamed of taking her to the city and starting a new life together. But their moment together was soon interrupted when Olin appeared, drunk and angry. He accused Dolores of being unfaithful to him and warned Jaron to stay away from her. Then, he showed Jaron the video he had taken as he demanded that Dolores should be with him again that night. But Dolores refused as she was disgusted by his behavior. But when he grew violent and brandished a gun, she was left frozen in fear. So, Olin takes advantage once more as he forces himself on her while Jaron, who he was holding at gunpoint, stood watching helplessly. Then all of a sudden, Olin is hit by a blow from behind. In the end, we see that it was Rodel who had attacked Olin as he had followed them there, since he was already aware of his wife's affair. He eventually reveals that the truth had been eating away at him ever since he saw them together outside the house days earlier. But despite his heartbreak, Rodel had kept quiet, believing silence was the price for Dolores' happiness. He admitted he had known everything but chose not to speak, as he wanted to see Dolores happy even if it meant losing her love. His words shattered the atmosphere as both Dolores and Jaron were overwhelmed with guilt. The next morning, Jaron prepared to leave the village, and before departing, he apologized to Rodel for his mistakes. Rodel, now able to stand on his own, thanked him for restoring his strength, but warned him to never return or meet Dolores again. Jaron, still feeling regretful, agrees as Dolores walks him out. But before parting, Rodel handed Dolores his phone number, and they embraced one last time, tears streaming as they said goodbye. Though their hearts longed to stay together, fate had left them no choice. After he was gone, Dolores returned home and thanked Rodel for his forgiveness, as she had finally realized the depth of his love, and that the man who had endured pain in silence just to see her happy. From that day on, Dolores and Rodel lived peacefully, cherishing each other and rebuilding their life together. And that is the recap of the movie Liga. If you love this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and also leave a comment for us. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.